Welcome to the RestoreLiberty.us podcast. We are sitting here inside of the new facility for Cincinnati Classical Academy, former Belcan building. We just took a quickie tour. Phenomenal upgrade. Looks like a purpose-made school at this point. I'm here with Russell Newsom and Jed Hartings. Jed, sorry about the pronunciation, but thank you so much for doing this. It's going to be great to show people what you've been doing here with Cincinnati Classical and to give them an idea of what's possible with education, with what's going on now. So first, let's start with a little history. I know you were kind of the beginnings of this idea when you heard about what was going on with Hillsdale College and the fact that they were trying to go through K through 12. How did this all start?
Yeah, I come from a family and myself that's have always been just very interested in education. I went to graduate school, stayed in school too long. I'm still in school, I guess, but just have paid a lot of attention to what's been going on at universities. I'm a university professor at UC, research professor in neuroscience, and had followed what had happened with all of our alma maters, the universities, the high schools we went to, and the direction that education was heading in general. And when my sister enrolled her daughters at this classical school, it was a Hillsdale charter school, their very first one in Leander, Texas.
Okay.
And that was the first thing I'd ever heard about what this classical education movement was. And the more I looked into it, the more impressed I was with the curriculum spelled out K through 12 very intelligently, didn't leave anything essential out of education, and filled in a lot of the gaps that even the best schools in the country leave in the curriculum. And I was just so impressed with Hillsdale College as well, because they stood alone, I think, in this country, even in comparison to my beloved alma maters, in being exceptionally mission-driven and focused.
And sticking to what works. I mean, they are very conscious in their efforts to not talk about the modern theories like woke theories and critical race theory and all those craziness. Hillsdale's just phenomenally focused on what's worked over thousands of years, not tens, not even hundreds, but thousands of years.
Absolutely. Their integrity is astounding. They do not bend to mob rule.
So how did you...
Can I interject?
Go for it.
I love the Restore Liberty podcast. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so excited for your listeners, because I think this is going to be like the most hopeful hour in a long time, because the story that Dr. Hartings is going to tell is from having this idea to encountering one struggle after another, to facing incredible opposition at different points along the way, and to be in this story that's now helping 1,000 kids get the kind of education he's describing. So I take this very seriously. I love the podcast, so I dressed up, right? And then I see you guys in your blue open collar shirts, and I'm like, maybe I'm more inspired by this story than you guys are.
I can't think with a necktie on. I just can't. It cuts off the oxygen to the brain.
I'm just kidding. I look like I'm 12, so I have to dress this way.
There you go.
I am really, really excited and thankful to you, because this is a great venue, and it's a hopeful story. So I think people will be inspired by it.
And we are so focused right now. Liberty in education is probably under more attack than it has been in years. I mean, look at the fight we've had just to say that there's a difference between a man and a woman, and that men shouldn't be in the women's restrooms. I mean, stuff that was unthinkable. I can't imagine what my father would have done if some guy tried to go into the women's restroom at the school he was working. There was no way.
And just as an example to play off of that, when I first looked up the Hillsdale website for their K through 12 schools, they have 10 essential points that every Hillsdale K through 12 school abides by, and one of them is the teaching of objective standards of in truth, beauty, goodness, those sorts of things.
Well,
so
and that's
who else says that these days?
I cannot think of another. I mean, you watch the different things coming out of schools. You watch all of the propaganda that's coming out of news agencies now. Hillsdale's always been focused on tried and true, proven over decades. And to me, it really...
Millennia.
it really resonates with the founding fathers. The founding fathers all knew Greek. They all knew architecture. Half of them were engineers or scientists. I mean, they had a classical education. So when you started hearing about the,
I think this is such a profound point. It's worth circling, because I think there's the idea that now education, and this is from really, really, really well-meaning people that all of us agree with, but they think, man, our people are not coming out prepared to work, and that's a huge problem. That's absolutely a huge problem. There's an even deeper problem. They're not prepared for self-governance. Our founding fathers had the wisdom to know what liberty meant, to establish the founding documents, to author them, to bring the words of liberty into the world, because they had wisdom and virtue, right? And wisdom and virtue is more important than job skills, right? That being said, the way you get great workers and great, employees, great entrepreneurs, is to embed them with wisdom and virtue, right? But it's really, really clear to focus on what's actually at the foundation of education. Dr. Hartings says it so well. It's the transmission of culture, right? And at the core of it is wisdom and virtue. We do not care if our students thrive academically if they're not virtuous humans when they leave here. And so
there's nothing worse than a smart person that uses it for evil.
Exactly right.
Yep.
It's like, Second Amendment debates, a good guy with a gun or a bad guy with a gun.
Right.
So you need virtue as in my opinion, that's the most important thing that the Hillsdale schools are doing. The Cincinnati Classical is they are very clear about what you're doing, which is the schools are built around virtue and imbuing children in a virtuous culture.
And so when you looked at that and you said they had their 10 things that they guide by, and that drew you to this, though, what gave you the impetus to say, hey, I'm going to try and do this in Cincinnati?
It filled my heart when I saw the full curriculum. I mean, it hits you that hard and filled my head, my heart, everything. It's like every fiber of my being was fulfilled in that moment, because so much of my entire life, really since I was 15 and started thinking independently, has been looking for the answers to how various ideas fit together, filling in gaps in my understanding of political science or history or philosophy, and it was all here. It was all here in one curriculum book. And I said, this is the greatest gift that we could ever give, that anyone could ever give to youth, to our country.
Were you focused on your own children, or had they already been through school?
They hadn't. In fact, I just had my first daughter. This was in 2019. But I had no idea that this school would end up being one that they could go to. I didn't know if I'd be successful. I didn't know where it would end up being located, what my wife thought about this crazy idea I had, or anything else. But I knew that this is something that I believe deeply in. And you start researching, okay, my first Google search was, what is a charter school? Because it was literally starting from ground zero, not knowing anything. And you keep peeling back the layers and you're not running into hard obstacles. And so you keep going. And then one day you find that the school's been announced publicly, and now you're sort of beholden to families who have these great hopes and expectations. And, 6 years later, here you are.
Wow. So it's only been 6 years. You now finally have a property that you can call your own to do this. I guess I'm in those early days. Who were your early supporters? If not names, but what types of people came to your aid?
It was just some networking, some retirees with a little bit of extra time, a couple other parents looking for a school for their kids to attend. There were about 6 of us who got together. Just 6, right?
So just 6 people now are educating 1,000. Wow.
This started in Jed's basement. I mean, that's seriously, it's from Jed's basement to now 6 years later buying the Belcan building, and being able to borrow $29 million from Wall Street to do so because the success of the school. It's an amazing story, like I said earlier.
This is better than Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak starting Apple in a garage. This is going to make a huge effect.
Our first board meetings were in our living room, and we had to keep things down because my newborn daughter was taking a nap. Now she's just finished her first year of kindergarten, and she reads now on like level 2 or 3.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
So you are finally getting a benefit from out of it. That's amazing.
But yeah.
So in the 6 years' time, you started with what, just 1 through 5?
We opened with K through 6.
Okay.
So that was 3 years ago. right?
Yeah.
3 years
September
ago.
2022.
And we're adding a grade level each year. So this year we're adding our first high school class, which is really exciting.
So
450 students, K through 6 was the largest charter school launch in the history of Ohio, because Jed speaks so eloquently about this, and the headmaster does, Michael Rose, and parents saw what their kids were learning in COVID. And when they heard people actually talk about a virtue-based education, they had more demand than you kind of knew what to do with. And it was so obvious that these two men had been able to attract just world-class teachers here. You know, some teachers, there's amazing teachers who had been trapped in an education system that was not working and were eager to get to a place like this. So
they could actually teach the kids as opposed to just feed them.
You got it.
And push them through the grades one at a time.
So from day one, they started with, you know, the largest charter school launch in the history of Ohio and a large wait list, you know, so,
wow.
So it's been a rocket ship, you know, from his basement, you know, or living room, it's been a rocket ship since then, but that's discounting many, many, many obstacles, you know.
Yeah, I know the biggest obstacle you were mentioning earlier was just getting a property you could call your own. It sounds like the teacher unions, the school board unions, the administrators, it's like the entire school ecosystem was fighting you, and they found that the way they could fight was by not giving you a home. How did you finally get past that to get, you know, the old Belcan building? Was it just luck?
Well,
divine providence?
We were looking for, our ambition had always been to be the largest school that Hillsdale would allow that was consistent with the classical model, which is about 100 students per grade, 1,300 overall. And we knew that the temporary location that we were leasing in Reading was not big enough for that. But you're right. Every time we were looking to purchase a property that required some kind of public hearing, that's when we got the massive resistance from the teachers unions. We had 3 superintendents from Princeton, Loveland, and in Miami, Milford School District, come out publicly and oppose the sale because they didn't want a charter school in their backyard.
Because it would take away from their public school, they would lose money, although I think you'd have a hard time proving they ever lose money.
Yeah, they say that, but it's just a competition. I think, in my opinion, it's the competition. They don't want a high-performing charter school because some of those very places have welcomed charter schools that take, you know, troubled students specifically off their hands. They've never opposed other charter schools publicly, but they propose the one that comes along that has the highest literacy, you know, rates in the state of Ohio, and is one of the best testing schools in the state, and has the virtues underlying it. They don't want that charter school. And we could say why we think that is, but anyone would have to make their own.
It's success. I mean, everybody's trying to take down Tesla because they got the best EV in the world. I mean, everybody tries to take down the guy at the top. So let's talk about some of the successes. I saw some of the stuff you had. I did my own research on stuff. It sounds like you're having just enormous success. You don't even teach to the test, but you're still scoring the highest on the tests. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, it is. We've been consistently in the top 5 of all charter schools in the state in reading proficiency, math proficiency, and there are probably 300 charter schools in the state. So we've been top 5 in every category every year since the first year.
Has the success made it easier or harder? Meaning with the naysayers out there?
I think probably harder, just for the reasons you just explained. You know, they're threatened by success.
100%. I mean, there's other charter schools started in the same time frame, and they don't have public hearings of opposition when they just try to go do basic things like, you know, open a school in a building. But yeah, so it's impressive numbers because we're the number one. Cincinnati Classical is the number one. This is my job, George. Okay, just to brag, right? It's Dr. Hartings, the founder, and it's a little easier. I'm a classical parent, and so I can tell you about the effect it's had on my own children. And it's been unbelievable. Any classical parent would tell you the same. But by numbers, it's the number one charter school in the state in early literacy, and then number 3 in overall achievement out of, like he said, almost 300 schools, that are tested. And that's impressive because there's a lot of charter schools that actually select for the best students, right?
Right.
So they are some of the best performing schools in the state, and we're, we're basically beating all of them without a second of test preparation. Nothing that happens in the school is test preparation per se. Test
Do
preparation.
you have like an entrance exam to
No,
test them coming in?
I'm glad you brought that up because no, we don't. We're actually prohibited by law and wouldn't want to anyway because our mission from the founding was to serve the public, to make the greatest education possible available to anyone, regardless of means, class, background, whatever. So no, there's no aptitude tests.
It's just a lottery on whether you get in
It's a
at the
lottery.
beginning.
It's first come, first serve until our seats are full. And then if the number of applicants exceeds the seats available, it goes to a lottery.
So how many are on the waiting list now?
We've got 950 enrolled and 450 on the waiting list.
So 50%.
But
Yeah,
it's actually much greater than that because people know you. It's
can't get on.
Almost impossible to get into the lower grades. You can get into the high score 8th grade, but the lower grades, we have virtually 100% student retention. And so if you don't get in kindergarten, you really, unfortunately, don't have a shot first, second, third, and fourth grade. And if it is announced that Cincinnati Classical Academy had a first grade spot open, there'd be hundreds that aren't on our wait list in line that would ask to come. So the reason I'm pointing this out is this is not at all, boasting. The point is the demand for this is off the charts. It's thousands and thousands in just our area. And so that's the scope of the problem. Parents know that they need better options than what's going on now. And our wait list is one sign of that. Our wait list, like I said, barely even begins to tell the story because if, first, second, third grade, if we had any spots open, there would be a line, down the street.
Right.
And one of the most impressive things I heard Dr. Hartings say was, because, it's your new school and it's great to have a waiting list, right? I heard him literally tear. I hope I'm not embarrassing him, but he had tears in his eyes when he said, I'm not proud of the waiting list. Our waiting list is a tragedy. Those are students that are in an education system that's not working for them and their family.
Breaks my heart that we can't provide for everyone. Yeah.
Well, and let's talk about that. I mean, you've got near 100% retention, which is like far and away the number one problem in public school systems, especially, I live in the Northwest school district where, truancy, it's like 50% of the kids don't go to school most of the time. Do you have any trouble with absentee rates? Just
No.
out of curiosity, none. Do you have any trouble with what's the discipline level? Do we have out of control fights?
We don't because we set the tone in everything. The headmaster sets the tone in everything that the school does, in all of the processes and procedures of the school, paying attention to the small things. It's kind of like the broken windows, in New York City and police and crime. You correct the small things so that they never develop into larger behavioral problems.
So I was familiar with. I don't know if you
There's just a decorum of discipline and order as well as you
It's
can
not
see sort of
acceptable
looking
behavior.
around. No,
Exactly.
no.
Yeah, a friend of mine took over Holy Family schools in the West Price Hill, and they had horrible problems. But they did the exact same thing where they started treating the smallest infraction as being something huge, and suddenly they had no huge infractions because they had basically rooted out that philosophy that you can get away with anything.
Right.
So, George, I can't wait to have you come back during the school year because you can't believe I've never seen a class inside, like my own school education experience wasn't like it, where it's actually joyful. And when he says discipline and order, you think teachers yelling at them. Maybe at the beginning of the year, it's hard on some students that come from other schools. It's probably a difficult transition, but by even a month into school, but by the end of the school year, I mean, it's unbelievable. I was in a classroom towards the end of the year and the teacher they were doing grammar in a third grade class, and they have these like hand symbols, double underline. I didn't understand there, but every single kid was doing them, jumping out of their seat. And then she said, "Who knows what part of the speech this is?" And every hand went up and was eager, and the teacher was so alive. And I had tears in my eyes actually, and the people I was with had tears in their eyes because they said, "This is what school and education is. It's joyful to learn. It's joyful to be in a setting where people aren't mistreating each other, and where a huge portion of the day of teachers' day doesn't go to discipline." And I would say there's such minor discipline issues. Now that being said, it's a school, right? And issues come up. And so, a couple of times you have people, say, "You guys have promised to be virtuous and this and that. And this happened at school." And you go, yeah, it's a middle school. So it's not perfect, right? It's a human community with human things. And we say the things that come up are treated humanely, and even the discipline process should make everyone better at the end of it, but it's not perfect. It's a school like any others. But you would be amazed at what the environment's like during the day.
This is amazing. I think the success you're having just based on going back to the fundamentals that worked in the 1600s, not just the most recent stuff. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about what's the future. How do we capitalize this and get this, going in other areas? Again, this is the RestoreLiberty.us podcast. You can get us online. You can get us on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you go. Just type in RestoreLiberty.us. We'll be back in a second. Welcome back. We wanted to take this last little segment to talk about how do we capitalize on this? How do we get the public schools and the unions and the administrators to take a look at things like a classical curriculum, a summary of how do you make this phenomena that you started here? How do we get that to spread? Is it through school choice, or is there a way to change the way the local public schools are doing it?
All of the above. And I think the first step in our approach to that, and this really was the larger aim that we've had in mind really since the beginning. We didn't just want a school for our kids to go to. We wanted to impact the culture and the direction of society and the country. So we've been thinking about that. And the first step is being successful, being something that people are talking about, that's having hit pieces written on them in the Washington Post. We loved it when that happened because it gave us publicity, and what they say about that. So that's the number one thing is doing everything we can to achieve excellence here. And again, being large enough that others have to take notice and take account of what they're doing that might, in a way that it might lead to some self-examination. And I think that's worked already to some degree. As Russ mentioned a few minutes ago, there have been 4 or 5 new Hillsdale-affiliated schools that have been opened in the wake of our opening and inspired by our success throughout Ohio, from Akron to Columbus to Athens.
So there are more Hillsdale schools now in Ohio.
They are. They are multiplying like rabbits.
Very exciting.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there are now actually 27 classical schools in the state of Ohio. Would you believe that? Including private, charter, and Cincinnati Classical is the largest one. So, we take some pride in, being the flag bearers.
So how much traveling do you do to try and get others inspired to do this? Are you out there?
Absolutely. We go to them and they come to us. So this Friday, actually, we're going to the second annual Ohio Classical Schools Conference. It didn't exist 3 years ago, but now we have enough critical mass to get together and trade ideas and talk about challenges and hopes for the future. But also we're bringing in, and maybe Russ can speak to this a little bit, but we are bringing into Cincinnati Classical future school leaders. This year we have a fellow here who's training under our headmaster to become a future headmaster, paid for by Hillsdale College. And we have other teachers who come and learn from us by observing our classes. So we really are part of a national network.
So each year you add a new grade, you have to add new teachers. How hard is it to find new teachers? Now let people know what you're doing.
I think we're doing very well at it, but I would say that our headmaster puts a lot of work into it, and that he takes it as, I think, the most important part of his job. And we as board members certainly support that. That is the most important thing, is finding the right people. So he's very deliberate about it. I think it's one of his greatest talents and assets is being discerning in finding people with the right character, the right background in learning, of knowledge, the right presence in a classroom, as being a good, moral, and virtuous role model for the students.
Wow.
We should point this out. Last night I read that Steve Jobs said you have to find A+ players because they will always destroy, B and C players over the long run. So that's one of his business principles, which I never heard him, say that. And maybe that seems obvious, but so if you want to succeed at this level as a school, you have to have a leader who can recruit, and retain and identify, they have the personal judgment to know who's an A player and to have whatever quality it is that can bring them in and to help them know that that's a great place. And our headmaster is one of probably the best hire I've ever been around in my career, and that's in across any field. And he understands the importance of that. It's irreplaceable to find, just truly great teachers. So I think for one role, and I may be slightly wrong, but I'm almost sure it's stuck in my head that he interviewed 26 people for one role at one point.
Wow.
And then the secondary part of that is then it becomes a virtuous cycle, because by definition, a good teacher is wise. And they maybe don't care that much about what we say as much as if there's someone here they respect, they ask them, they go to them and say, is this a great place to spend your career? Right.
Right.
And one of our teachers said to me, you know what our teachers do? You know what really how you fit in here is be living a good life and wanting to help others live a good life. Like at its core, what makes a great teacher is someone who's passionate about that, and then of course there's some technical stuff on top of it, but really at its core, we're looking for people who are living a great virtuous life and care about other, and really, really live and breathe and understand it's one of the most important roles you could ever have is this time with these students to help them, live
Well, just
a
hearing the
life.
story, I am thrilled to see something like this out here, like what Cincinnati Classical Academy is able to accomplish. But it's almost disappointing because you've hit your cap. You can't have more students try and take part in this unless somebody else builds another one of these charter schools within the same area. And it's going to be interesting because the real solution is, why are we wasting, trillions and trillions of dollars with the Department of Education on things that don't work? Why not just devote 20% of that to more classical education systems that are having enormous success? And let's build that out from there. I just don't feel enthusiasm that that's going to happen until I think COVID opened a ton of people's eyes because they had to see what their students were being told, and they didn't like it. And the homeschooling is now finding out that, you can work, 3 hours a day, and you can outperform the 6 hour a day schools easy. Is homeschooling something that is an outgrowth of this, that maybe you can get parents to be the teachers this way? Or is it still, I see so much of what you were talking about as we were taking the tour is a very institutional administrative approach to large groups of students. I don't know that you could duplicate that in homeschooling, but is that something you think is an option?
Yeah, definitely. I think homeschooling has been and should be an option and part of the solution. And the numbers of homeschoolers in Ohio has gone through the roof. I mean, it's doubled since COVID started. I think it was at like maybe 50,000. Now it's 100,000 students in Ohio who are being homeschooled. And our school provided actually the first viable alternative for a lot of those families who had been homeschooling before, because there weren't options like Cincinnati Classical Academy available to them. So yeah, I believe in homeschooling, and to your earlier points, I do think that a lot is being achieved incrementally through getting the word out. The first step is educating people what this alternative model is, what what school used to be like.
Right.
It's not like it's a new thing here, but it's newly rediscovered. So educating them about this and getting legislators and political and cultural leaders to start talking about it. And we're seeing that more and more. We have as many politicians come through here as possible so that we can keep them informed. And we're seeing progress in Columbus. I mean, the law is changing year by year, gradually.
Unfortunately, we don't currently have a governor that supports what you're doing, but maybe Vivek can help us with that. So we'll see. Any closing comments?
He's talked tons about it. So is this, do we have a minute? Because I
Sure.
have a couple I have some gifts for your audience, right?
Okay, go for it.
You see this on the table. It's called the Sentinel. It's this right here, George, between us.
Yeah.
And we have some of the best writers on childhood culture and K through 12 education issues in our community, and including Dr. Hartings. And so we would like to be a national thought leader on these subjects, because the conversations going on here are worth sharing. So thankfully, we found a way to do it. We have a free publication. Sign up, free lifetime subscription. And it's this beautiful print piece that'll be in your hands, quarterly or every other month. And it'll just have one article on on some big topic affecting parents in schools.
So
And that's
pass
it.
me the website to sign up for
So
that,
go
and we'll
to
get that out there.
Friends of Cincinnati Classical.org. Friends of Cincinnati Classical Academy. You can Google that or go to friendsofcincinnati.classical.org or just Google Friends of Cincinnati Classical, and it'll take you to our website, and you'll see
Okay,
there's
excellent,
Sentinel stuff
excellent.
all over. So there's, it's we've had incredible feedback. We've had signups from all over the country. So a lot of people have told us it's wonderful and it's free. So it can't beat that
Go
as an
for it.
offer. The second thing is we have this building you're in that you just took a tour of. It's been an amazing 9-month transformation, and we're having a grand opening. We have a ton of special guests coming from all over, thousands of people coming, but we would love your Restore Liberty guest would be really inspired
Okay,
to be
cool.
here. So it's free.
When is the date?
Free and open to everyone, and it's on Monday, August 18th. Kind of beginning in the early evening with the ceremony at 6:30 p.m. But if they go to the Friends of Cincinnati Classical website, they can't miss the banner
Excellent.
that
Well, we'll
has
send
all the
that out.
details for that. And then the last thing is at that same website, if anyone's interested in supporting us, it's been a labor of love. This man, Jed, is a hero of mine. He's put in 6,000 hours and never got a single dollar from any of this. I mean, it's a labor of love to get this off the ground. And we really just started fundraising kind of over the last year, and we've had amazing partners come alongside us and say, you guys are changing the world, and we'd love to partner with that. But we need more because we have some parts of this facility that we do not have the funds to finish, and we need partners to come alongside us and say, we think what you're doing is so
You
valuable.
can't go get a property tax levy to pay for it.
We don't want, and we don't, nor do we want that. We think that this mission is so important. We love partnering with people who see it, and see it and love to be a part of it. We've had people tearfully give money that they've been saving and looking for something for years to give to. And so I'm sure some people will hear this and think, it's on my heart to support, if you're, especially some people thinking about it for a while, how do you make a difference? What is it? I have money, say maybe older. What do I do to actually make a difference? I promise you, this is a great way to do it. And we've had a lot of partners just in recent, over the last year really come alongside us to do it, but we need more.
Excellent.
So greatly
Excellent.
appreciate any help.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate the time. Like you said at the beginning, that's a great comment. That it's so rare that we have shining spots of where things are working great right now, and this is definitely one of those. I appreciate all your work, and thank you so much for getting involved in this, because I think you're making an enormous difference. Again, we'll get all this stuff posted up on the website. Let us know what you think, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks for talking with us, George.
Thank you, George.
Thanks.